What's up, everybody? It's your favorite show, Get a Bucket. I'm your host, Trey, and as usual, I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Today, we're going to talk about the NBA Summer League, but before we do that, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment, tell anyone about the show. Trying to get the ratings up a little bit, just a little bit. And if you wonder where you heard this before, that's because you've been listening to me Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I greatly appreciate your support. Now, like I said, we're going to talk about Summer League, right? Off the top, ladies and gentlemen, I just got to say this. It's not that important. Okay, it's purely entertainment. Don't get me wrong, the NBA is entertainment, right? But at the same time, like within the NBA, you can actually study players. At Summer League, it's purely entertainment, man. Like I get to see the top tier rookies as the best player, which normally when they get drafted, right, they get drafted by the worst teams. So they're probably going to be either the best player or one of the best players, right? But how often do some of these players really get in this situation? Also, the talent at Summer League has some NBA talent, but it's not quite NBA talent, to be clear. And then also, you get to see if the returning NBA players, right, are actually ready. When I mean returning NBA players, I mean players who have already played in the NBA, whether it's a season or two. You get to see if they actually dominate, because this is the time for players to dominate. Okay. Now, again, I say it's mainly entertainment because normally you don't really see some of these players really thrive. Like we saw Damian Lillard thrive, right, in Summer League. But you know who we also saw thrive? His co-MVP in Josh Selby. And I bet money most of y'all don't know who Josh Selby is. To be clear, Josh was actually cool, bro. All right, coming out of high school, I think he was ranked as high as number 4. He had that dog in him. He was just an undersized 2 guard and didn't quite pan out as well as you would have hoped and liked and thought back then. But a lot of the casual fans more than likely don't know who Josh Selby is. Like I actually saw Josh Selby growing up, and he was a good hooper. But we remember Damian Lillard, though, because Dame actually did what he was supposed to do in the NBA. But again, if we were paying attention to Summer League, well, we're expecting Josh Selby to do numbers the way Dame did. Again, the Summer League, ladies and gentlemen, is purely entertainment. Now, again, I talked about the top tier rookies, right? And that's where we get to figure out how these rookies might play. Like, for example, Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson has actually had a quality Summer League thus far. All right, like Buddy was actually playing pretty phenomenal. I gotta be honest, okay? Like Darryn Peterson, when they went up against the Grizzlies, that's right. We got the second pick in the NBA draft, and Darryn Peterson going up against the third pick in the draft, and Cameron Boozer. Darryn gave us 25 points and 12 assists, I think 2 turnovers. Cameron Boozer gave us 18 points, 7 rebounds, maybe like 4 assists. That's not bad, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to see these two teams, these two talents go up against one another. It's entertaining. Because again, seeing Darryn Peterson get 25 and 12 makes you wonder, will he be able to do this in the NBA? But again, remember, it's not specifically NBA talent here. It's not. Some of these players are not NBA ready. That's just a fact. So again, ladies and gentlemen, while it's cool to see some of these productions, it's not the end all be all. Now, the game that I was really looking forward to watching, and it just took place, it was against Darryn Peterson and Dybantsa. The Jazz versus the Wizards. And to be honest with you, the game was actually pretty entertaining. I got to admit that, ladies and gentlemen. It really was. Not just because the number 1 or the number 2 drafted players were playing against one another. Not because they've also played against each other in college and high school. Because the game was actually close. Like the Wizards went up as much as, I think, 17. And they end up winning the game 92-88. But here's what I saw. Saw a couple of things, right? Like, again, the top tier rookies. Darryn Peterson, he did phenomenal. Dybantsa, he did phenomenal. Like, don't get me wrong. Darryn had 8 turnovers, right? We can chill out on that. 2 of 7 from the 3. 6 of 18 from the field. 6 of 8 from the free throw line. So the free throws were okay. AJ, 7 of 18 from the field, 0 of 5 from the three-point line, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, 2 steals and a block, and he had an emphatic dunk showcasing his athleticism. I didn't really learn but so much about these boys. I'm telling you right now, it was a pure entertaining game to watch. Because the stuff that I saw AJ do during this game are the same thing that I saw him do during college. Like, again, it's not that much that you're really learning at this point in time. We saw him do bump fades. We saw him attack the basket. We saw him be very trigger happy. We saw him getting to the free throw line. Again, these are things that we saw at BYU. Hell, these are things we saw in high school. So his game has been transitioning from high school to college to the NBA. Fairly the same. So he's going to be a good player. But now we just got to see him do it against NBA talent. Darryn Peterson. Well, we did learn maybe you can tighten up your handle a little bit, champ. And he's going to have to get stronger. So is AJ. But again, we already knew that because coming into from college to NBA, there is a jump, usually. So we already expected that. So again, what are we really gaining? What are we really learning from Summer League? It's pure entertainment. Now, I would say this. I probably learned more about the returnees than I did about the newbies, right? Like Trey Johnson, Will Riley, who else was? Cody Williams. Those players I actually probably learned a little bit more of. Because when you're returning, like I said, those returning players, they need to dominate. And in that first half, I ain't going to lie to you, Cody was struggling. Now, he ended up with a decent night, right? 6 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 turnovers. You know, that happened a little early. 4 steals and a block. You can work with that. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I was expecting a little bit more out of Cody Williams, to be clear. Now, again, he got 12 shots off, made half, so I can at least take that. But at the first half, he didn't seem like he was doing quite well. And I'm thinking more so defensively because, again, he had to guard AJ. AJ was snapping off top. Trey Johnson, right? 11 of 20 from the field for 26 points. That ain't bad. Now, 2 of 8 from 3. I would have loved to see him shoot a little bit better from 3. But again, 11 of 20 overall, that's not nothing to scoff at. Turnovers, we could have cut down because that's talking about decision-making for sure. But again, ladies and gentlemen, he's in a different role. When he goes to the Wizards, he's going to be more of a shooter, more of a role player. On this team, he's arguably the second option. So again, Will Riley, he did quite well, especially towards the stretch. Both of them played phenomenal because AJ's out the game. These two had to close the game for the Wizards. So again, I expected a good amount from these guys, and they did deliver. And again, the game was phenomenal. So I got to at least get entertained by these teams. But again, I didn't learn but so much. Again, you have expectations of the rookies. You have expectations of the income of the returning players. But I'm not really learning anything until we go up against NBA teams. So once the season actually hits, once preseason starts, now we get to see a little bit more out of these players. But again, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, some of the notable games that we got to watch. AJ Dybantsa versus Darryn Peterson, the number 1 versus the number 2. Then we had Darryn Peterson versus Cameron Boozer, the number 2 versus the number 3. Like, those were pretty spectacular. Also, another game to watch, Kingston Flemings and the Atlanta Hawks versus the Jazz. You know, it's crazy. We are really mentioning Darryn Peterson out here quite a bit. Quite a bit. It's ridiculous. Also, that's another game where Darryn had 8 turnovers, so we may have to watch him in these turnovers. But again, Kingston Flemings had 14 points, 9 assists, 4 steals. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Buddy. 4-16 from the field. Also, again, ladies and gentlemen, in Summer League, the reason why I don't put as much emphasis on this in this entertainment, you get something like 10 fouls. 10 fouls in Summer League. Meanwhile, in the NBA, you get 6. So you can kind of go crazy with some of these fouls. That's why I say it's entertainment. I don't really learn nothing. But I'm curious, ladies and gentlemen, have you seen a game that was overly interesting to you in the Summer League that I didn't mention? Like maybe you saw Yaxel Lendeborg, right? And he did phenomenal. Maybe you peeped that game. That game was pretty spectacular. I ain't gonna hold you, actually. Like he played No, he played pretty well. I ain't gonna lie. Yaxel was a really good pickup for the Warriors, ladies and gentlemen. Tell you right now, he is very versatile. I think he gave like 21 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, something like that. Like, he's pretty spectacular. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. So I'm looking forward to seeing what players like Yaxel do against NBA caliber talent. Maybe he's helpful in Steph Curry winning another championship. Who knows? But again, these Summer League games, purely entertainment. But let me know your thoughts on the Summer League games and which one were the most entertaining for you. Or if you feel like you've learned something about these players. I'd like to know your thoughts. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that does conclude the end of the episode. So please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, tell anyone who's anyone about the show. My name's Trey. I'm the host of Get a Bucket. I hope you are all having a good one. Take care.